very well. So it's 9 o'clock in the morning in
Okay.
Brisbane, Australia here, and 7 p.m. I believe in Canada. And who knows who else is watching around the world. Welcome to the live stream.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me again, Carissa.
Yeah, of course. I'm super excited, guys. So this is Steve. He's a hyperpad lover, also a musician, also an Apple professional. He goes all around and then teaches about Apple products and all the like tech products. And today he's gonna be helping us running a hyperpad workshop for teachers. A lot of teachers are a little bit, scared to kind of teach coding because they don't know much about coding. And today we're gonna talk about how hyperpad is that easy way out to kind of like start teaching students how to easily like learn a little bit of logistic behind coding.
Yeah, fantastic. So I've been using iPads to teach now from kindergarten to year 12 for about 11 years. And I started teaching hyperpad probably about 7 years ago, not shortly after it probably came out, I would imagine. I was looking for an app that I could use to teach coding that allowed the students to create their own designs and their own sound. And that to me was very important, and also very important from the feedback I got from both teachers and especially students. So I'd been using lots of other coding apps, and there was some fantastic coding apps on the iPad, lots and lots of them. Like one of the free ones at the moment that a lot of schools are using is Swift Playgrounds. The biggest issue that I found with a lot of these apps is that even though it was great for learning line coding and learning coding in general, the students were getting very frustrated. They wanted to create their own stories. They wanted to create their own objectives. They wanted to create their own sounds, and they wanted to create their own characters. So a lot of these students, they get iPads in their schools, and they're taught all about the creative apps. So they're taught, how can we create, animations or green screens, iMovies, and they showed how to use, a lot of the artistic apps. Procreate is a really good one, and even Keynote. I use Keynote a lot just to create cartoon characters and things like that for games. And so they were very, very interested in actually being able to import their own characters into something that they could code. And the thing I like about hyperpad is that it's compatible with Garageband as well. So it allows them to import their own soundtracks. And that to me is genius, because let's face it, we're all creative at some capacity. Some people don't think they're as creative, but everyone is creative at some capacity. Sure. But students have this imagination, and it's just ticking over time. And so they come up with these incredible stories, and they have their favorite characters that they might want to implement into their game. I used to love Super Mario Brothers and Sonic the Hedgehog. They were my two favorite games when I was a child. And I'm still a child, really. I'm just a big 40-year-old child now. And so for me, being able to sort of, without publishing it on the App Store, if you're using, Nintendo characters, that's a breach of copyright. And I like to talk to my students about copyright when they're creating their own games. But today, I wanted just to go over how I would approach a classroom, how I would teach, why I have the discussion about copyright. Oh, there we go. Just started recording, Carissa, and talk about game objectives and also ways that we can connect to the curriculum, because that's really, really important, that they're not just having fun learning coding, but there are some outcomes that teachers can use, parents can be happy about, and principals, schools are responsible for making sure that they have outcomes, especially when they're purchasing or investing time and money into apps or technology in general. Okay, so can I see my screen? Can you see the screen, Carissa? My Keynote on the iPad.
Yeah,
can
I can
see that? Yeah, so everyone should be able to see that.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I do when I'm running a class, and I'm running a hyperpad class on Wednesday, for example, with a primary school up here in Brisbane. And the first thing that I'm going to be talking to them about, aside from just coding principles, is making sure that they have a very clearly defined objective for their game. Okay, so if you were making a game, what objectives would you put into the game? This is very important, because if they don't have a clearly defined objective for their game, then they're really not, they don't have any direction. They're just going to be mucking around with sounds and special effects. And hyperpad allows you to do all these things like sound effects and special effects, fire, snow, water. We can do all these incredible things, but without some kind of objective, they don't have that clear direction.
Yeah.
So they have to make the game interesting. I say, it's got to look and sound good, but it's got to have very clearly defined objectives. So we talk about Super Mario Brothers as just an example. And of course, they're not allowed to make a Super Mario Brothers game and publish it on the App Store because that's a breach. HyperPad allows you to ultimately put your app on the App Store if you have the the license to develop, which costs a couple $100 a year. And younger students aren't allowed to do that without their parents' permission anyway. But I don't usually go into that level of detail with schools. It's more about the coding and the experience and just having fun. And they're not publishing it to the App Store. They're just showing each other and playing each other's games, showing the teacher what they've created. So they're just having a lot of fun in the classroom. So in the example of Super Mario Brothers, when I say to the students, what are some objectives for your game? And they always, say things like, we have to rescue Princess Peaches. We have to collect coins. We have to, try not to fall off the screen. We don't want to lose lives. We have to get to the end of the game. And I put a whole bunch in front of you. So, jumping on their enemies to get points and whatnot. So these are pretty obvious once you start to talk about it. But I've had students come up to me before and go, Mr. Steve, my last name's a little bit hard to pronounce. Mr. Steve, look at my game. Doesn't it look and sound amazing? And it's just like a ball bouncing around the screen or something like that. And I'm like, looks cool, but what am I doing here? And I said, how long would you be interested in this game if you were playing it from the App Store? How long would it take before you would be bored? And they're like, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, doesn't have enough objectives and enough, something to get them involved. Doesn't have a storyline, then that's a problem. And so every game should have a storyline. And the beautiful thing about HyperPad is you can have a literacy focus, not just a STEM focus, but you can have a literacy focus. So you can have text bubbles appearing in the game and you can have text. This is amazing because you can really make that story come alive, or you can create interactive ebooks and apps as well, not just games. So one of the things I get them to do is I get them to convert their problem into what we call pseudocode. Now, pseudocode is just a fancy name for basically describing how the computer how you would solve the problem using some kind of coding solution, just using whatever language it is. For you, it might be Portuguese, Carissa, because you're from Brazil. Yeah. But most of my students, English is their first language, and so we just get them to write down the problem, and then we get to write down the solution in English. And as they write it out, they start to think about the solutions and how they might embed that into their game design, which is really, really important, right? Yeah, so sure. They can simplify certain things. So in this particular case, Mario might become M for Mario, and C might become coin. And then we do if-then statements. And an if statement, I learned about if-then statements when I was at school doing computational studies, but computer studies. If Mario collides with coin, then our coin count would go up by maybe 1 or 2 or whatever you set the parameters for. So straight away, they know that if Mario collides with a coin, if they touch a coin, then there's some kind of program that they have to implement in their coding that increases that coin count by 1. It could be they touch Bowser, and Bowser's makes them reduce their health bar by 20% or 25%, whatever they said. So they have to know that there should be a repercussion for every action that takes place in the game. And then they start to implement these into their objectives and into their game storyline. Now, I have done this with year ones. This is not just something I do with like senior high school, senior secondary. I've done this with year ones. I haven't really done it with prep. It's too young for prep, but I have done basic game design and HyperPad at a basic level where I've given them graphics and I've talked through them basic fundamentals all the way through to even tertiary. I've done this with tertiary students as well. So it is for everybody at different levels. And I'm trying to show you something that you can all use, whether you're a primary school teacher or a secondary teacher or whatnot. Okay, so once I can see, or the teacher can see that the student has got objectives, they start to show what the problem is and then how to solve that problem. The next step, and the flow, I like to talk to them about flow charts, but I usually do the flow charts with secondary. I don't really do flow charts with primary school students. If I have a lot of time, maybe, and if they're really advanced or if they've been doing coding for a long time, I might go into flow charts. But I think most of you have seen basic flow charts, but this is a flow chart of that particular problem we just talked about. So if Mario collides with a coin, then if that statement is true, then we increase the coin count by 1, or we go to the false side, and it means that we don't increase the coin count by anything. So there's no action there. Okay, so that's an if-then statement. If we collide, we increase. If not, then that's the else part of it. If then else we do nothing. Okay, and this again is basically like a visual representation of the coding solution. We'll definitely get into hyperpad, but this is very, very important because it sets a foundation for why we do what we do and how to approach the hyperpad coding side of things. So here's a basic one. Here's a milk one. If and I'll do this as I'll show you as a pseudocode first, or as an if then else statement. If M for milk is equal to or less than 10%, then we probably should go to the shops and buy some more milk. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to have cereal. Else, we can drink the milk. We can have our cereal. We can do whatever. Okay, and underneath, again, you got a flow chart. If M equals to or more than 10%, it's true. We can drink the milk. If it's less than, we need to go to the shops. Okay, and we can do that for anything. I've done it for petrol here. Okay, so there's a bit of a Back to the Future a reference. But if petrol is equal to less than 10%, and I say this to the students, what would you do if your petrol was running really low when you were driving down the highway? They're too young. Most of them are too young to drive. If your parents were driving, your guardian was driving you down the highway, and all of a sudden the petrol light started coming on, what would you do? We would need to go to the petrol station. That's usually what they say. Go to the gas station. We call it petrol in Australia, but in America, for example, we call it gas station. We would go to the gas station. We would fill up a petrol. Else we keep driving. What if we keep driving and we're about to run out of petrol? We probably run out of petrol. We need to turn on the hazard lights, pull over so we don't get rammed in the back of the car, So it seems very basic when we talk about it, especially as an adult, when you talk about these solutions, it seems very basic. But if the student cannot present the problem, they can't attach these problems to their objectives, and they can't show a solution in their language, Portuguese, they will not be able to implement it in coding most of the time. So it is imperative that it's very clearly defined, both the objectives and the solutions, before they start to code. And this is one of the fundamentals that a lot of teachers get wrong in the classroom. And I teach a lot of teachers. Most of my time is actually with teachers these days. And they get that wrong. And then the coding happens and it's a big mess. And they're not reaching the outcomes or the objectives that they should be trying to achieve with the students because it's a convoluted mess. So there's a bit of a flow chart. Again, if it's more than 10%, it's true, you keep driving, that's fine. If it's false, we might turn on a warning light. And they say, can we add this? Can we add? Yes, go for it. You should add the hazard lights. You should add pulling to the side of the road, trying to look around for safety. Add all of those features into it, and then later on we should be able to attach that to the coding. Okay, so I have created a little game as a demonstration, and I'll show you that in a moment. And basically I've got a little bit of a pseudocode, but I'm just going to jump out of this and show you a quick game that I've made in hyperpad so you can see what I'm talking about. So this, I'm just going to go back here, and I'm going to create a game from scratch in a moment. We're going to create it from zero so we can see some of those fundamental steps. But this, and at the moment, all you can see in the main window here is a bunch of graphics that I've added. If I click on my main character, okay, so I made this character just in Keynote using shapes. Okay, very, very simple. And I exported it from Keynote just as a picture. And then I can start coding this picture. Now you can import your own graphics. I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment, but it's really, for most students, it's important that they can also create their own characters as well. They love creating their own sounds and characters and effects. That is why I like hyperpad more than any other coding app, Clarissa, like hands down, because this fundamental point is what defines hyperpad as being different from most other coding apps. Not all. I mean, you can get into Unity, right? And programs like that. Extremely advanced.
Creative. They get super creative. Some students, they even put pictures of themselves and then of their friends in the game. So
yeah, and you can do that. Now, I don't allow my students to put their own faces or anything that's a privacy breach. It's like even if they're saving that to the cloud, it's a breach of some schools' privacy laws. So I'm very strict about that. But if they're just doing it for fun, and yeah, of course, put your face in as a character, that's fine. But just keep in mind that some schools are very, very, very pedantic. I'm very pedantic. I don't want my son posting anything on, his face on social media until he's old enough to understand what's going on. He's very young. I don't want anything like that happen. And in schools, the teachers are really strict about it. So, you can talk to your students about privacy issues and stuff like that, but creating a game for fun, that's where it starts. And this is a little zebra I created in Keynote. Okay, and I've created these little robot spiders, just using circles and basic shapes in Keynote. And then I export them and I put them into hyperPad. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, and then I start coding. This is what the game looks and sounds like. So if I press play, okay, he's got a jetpack. If I press jump, you can see this fire that comes out of his jetpack. I've attached sounds to it. You've got a little laser that can shoot. I got a point system, so you can see I just got 12 points. If I touch a spider, you can see that my health bar is just decreased by about 20%. So I've got a coding rule for that. I can even do double jump, and I just hit my threshold for the health bar. It went and it just zeroed out. It just reset the level. I've also got screen.
Let me first say your art is really good. So.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've got a fire pit. I've got the screen following me. Okay. And then I've just fallen off and I've started again. So my objectives for this game was a bunch of African space animals that I created. And those space animals were all just my own original stuff. So I could technically publish this to the store. The soundtrack in the background I created in Garageband. So again, it's all just using combinations of loops and composition. So that's all copyright free. All the sounds are copyright free. I can basically use anything in this game and publish it to the App Store without worrying about copyright issues. Okay. So if I click on the behaviors of my zebra, this shows me how I've coded some of these actions for the zebra. And if we just zoom in, okay, so this is a jump button that you can see in the middle of the screen there. So that's a jump button. So I've got a basic, when I'm doing my if then else statements, I've got a basic one, right? If I touch jump button, then I can start a particle, which is the fire shooting out of the rocket pack. I also change the graphic from being like he's looking like he's standing with two legs to the one next to it. Put that right in the middle there, where his back leg is looking like it's jumping. So just by touching that jump button, I'm changing the graphic to a jump one. And I'm also shooting a particle, which is a fire particle. I'll show you how to make particles in a sec, out of the rocket pack. And so that's a basic, if I jump, then, and I've also got things like sounds coming out of the jump button. So I can actually program sound in there. And I'm going to show you how to create sounds in a moment as well. So there's a lot of coding going on just for this one character, let alone all the other things in the game. But everything can be broken down into small little incremental steps to make it super obvious as to what you're doing with your game design, with your objectives, and with your overall game that you put together. So if I get back out of this, and I'll come back to hyperPad in a moment. We'll just go to Keynote. Okay, so let's just go down to here we go. Let's go to play. All right, so if the zebra falls off a platform and touches the bottom of the screen, then I need to code something that says that we restart that level, okay? And so I've gone, if zebra touches bottom of screen, then restart level. So what would that look like in hyperPad? Okay, well, let's jump out of Keynote and go back to hyperPad, but this time I'm going to create a new game. So I'm going to go back into hyperPad. I'm just going to click on the top left corner and then press save and quit. So on the bottom left corner, it says save and quit. I'm going to get out of my existing game and I'm going to create a brand new game. Okay, so I'm going to go to new project in the top right corner, and I'm just going to call this, test game, or you can call it whatever you like. Now, by default, just press next a few times. If you're on an iPad, don't worry about setting it to landscape mode or anything like that. It automatically sets it up in landscape mode, and it automatically adds gravity to it. And if you have a look at gravity, you've got an x-axis and a y-axis there. It puts -25 on the y-axis, which basically means that there's gravity affecting that particular axis. And so actually, if I just quickly jump back to Keynote, I'm just going to go through a couple of slides here. This is something that I even show my year 1 students, okay, let alone year 4 and year 7. This is very easy for them to understand. When I was teaching this to teachers, they're like, my kids can't even spell their name. How are they going to? And I'm like, seriously, if I show them this, I guarantee you they'll get it. And every single time, 10 out of 10 times, they understand it. Why? Because it's something they can apply to their game. They all understand what gravity is. Hold a pencil, drop it. Oh yeah, I see gravity. Pretend that that's the y-axis. It's up and down. If I drop the pencil, it's going down. If I throw it up in the air, it's going up before it comes back down. If I move to the left, I'm going on the x-axis. If I move to the right, I'm going to the right on the x-axis. I'm going positive or negative numbers. And so by looking at this graph, I can see straight away that there's 2 axes on a platform game. Obviously in Unity and advanced, games, there's more than 2 axes. You got 3D games, but hyperPad is for 2D, not for 3D. And it's a great introduction to gaming. If you want to get into the advanced Unity stuff, that's for a completely different day. I can speak to you about that. I love making 3D stuff. But this is very easy to see. Positive numbers, negative numbers, going up and down on the y-axis, positive and negative numbers going left and right on the axes. And I say to students, X is across, X is across, and then Y is up and down. They always get that, okay? So when you set up the project, by default, you can see that the gravity is set to 0 for the x-axis, and it's set to -25 for the y-axis. So we've already got gravity set up for us. Why would you muck around with this? Why would you change that? Well, you might want to increase the gravity or decrease the gravity. You might be under the ocean doing an underwater game like Finding Nemo or something, and there's a current pushing you one direction, and in which case you probably would change the x-axis and make it a negative number, so it's pushing you to the left, for example. Does that make sense? So this is very important when you set up the game, to understand that concept, and then it makes it much easier for them when they're coding. So we press create, it loads a brand new page, and we can see that we've just got a blank page. Now that is the border of our starting screen, but think of it as a digital canvas that can go forever. You can add stuff in that screen, but you can also add stuff out of the screen, and you can go up, down, left, and right. Think of it's not infinite, but it's huge. It's a huge digital canvas that you can play with, canvas, I should say. First thing I want to do is import some of my characters that I've created. So this is really important. It's in the bottom right corner, that little filing cabinet looking icon. We can import characters. Okay, so here you've got new folder, get assets, import, and then create effects. I'll get to create effects in a moment. That's one of the reasons I love hyperPad. But import, I'm just simply going to go to import, and then I'm going to choose graphics, the very top one. And then I'm going to choose some things that I've already saved to the camera roll. Now, they may have created their own characters and saved them to the camera roll already. But in most cases, when I start teaching hyperPad, they don't have any characters, to start with. So we talk about just importing some characters from, Safari or Chrome, whatever they use. So we might just go into Safari, click on an image like, Mario, or a tree, or a tile for grass, or a ground tile, those Super Mario games, the 8-pixel ones, you have little tiles, and then you just hold it and save it to the camera roll. Okay, that's, we can go into more details another day on how to do that kind of thing, but most students and teachers know how to save an image to the camera roll. And then all we're doing now is importing from the camera roll. So if I click on my camera roll, okay, I've got a bunch of folders. I've already created a folder for my coding graphics. You can see it's halfway down the screen there. I've got 17 pictures in there, coding graphics. So I click on that. And these are some images that I didn't create. I didn't create these ones. I did create my zebra ones from Keynote, but these are ones I just saved from Safari, just to show you how easy it is to import from the camera roll. So the first thing I'm going to import is I want maybe some grass. Okay, so that's my grass tile, and I need something to stand on. Otherwise, I'm just going to fall through the floor. And I might import a background. So I'm going to have a beautiful picture in the background. So I'm going to import that. And I'm going to choose Mario as my good protagonist, my main character. I might choose Bullet. Okay, the what's his name? Bonsai Bill, I think his name was from memory. And then Bowser as well. Okay, so you can import as many characters as you want. We're just going to start with ground tiles, so we don't fall through background, a main character, and a couple of baddies, a couple of enemies. And by the way, you don't have to make a game that always has enemies. You can make ping pong games, you know. It doesn't have to be violent. No, I don't encourage students to have violent games, but I press done. Okay, and it's now imported those photos into the palette. Okay, so there's my main screen. I want to see those characters again. I click on the bottom right corner. I can see all of those images that I've just imported from the camera roll. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the grass tile by clicking on it, and then I'm just going to drag it onto the screen. Okay, now by default, the picture might be nice and big. I can easily resize that by clicking on it, and then I just push one of the corners in and kind of resize it to make it a bit smaller. Okay, and then I can click and drag it wherever I want. It doesn't have to be in that border, but I might just start it there for now. Okay, now instead of dragging it back in there every time, oh, I've now got to resize that every time. What a pain that would be. I'm just going to click on that and delete it. I can click on that tile. If I know that it needs to be duplicated a bunch of times, I'm going to click on the duplicate button, which is right in the middle of the screen. See where the red garbage bin is? It's just above that red garbage bin icon. So to the right middle of the screen there. And I just press duplicate a few times. Okay. And then that might be enough. I'm going to make a little hole so Mario can fall through. You might want to make steps, okay, that he can jump up. It's up to you what you want to do there. Okay. So that's my ground. It needs something to stand on. By default, when you add in a picture, it acts as if it's a brick. Basically, it's not moving. It's not affected by gravity by default. It's just sitting there stable, does nothing until we program it to do something. What would you add now? Let's add our main character, Mario. So we're going to go back to the import button, bottom right corner, and we're going to click on Mario, and then we're going to drag Mario onto the screen. Okay. Mario is quite big at the moment. So I'm going to click on Mario, and I'm going to resize just like we did with the grass, make him a little bit smaller. It's probably good. Now, Mario is currently a brick. If I press play, Mario doesn't move. It's like a brick. So I need to actually click on Mario, and then see if you have a look just where it says behaviors in the right-hand middle of the screen there. It says behaviors, and underneath behaviors, you've got a little brick there. See the brick? It's highlighted that by default whenever you add in a graphic, it's a brick. To the left of that brick, there's a little, it looks like a rocket ship or a rocket. Okay. That icon represents being able to interact with your physics. Okay. Gravity, any kind of physics that you program to that atmosphere, to the game. What did we have? Do you remember what we had as which axes we had a number for when we started up the game? We had -25 on, do you remember which axis that was, Clarissa? It was the Y axis. So it was going to, it was going to pull us down. So that means that if I put Mario like up here and press play, now that he's a rocket ship, now that he's interacting with his environment, if I press play, you should see Mario fall, touch the ground. Yeah, makes sense? Okay, so that's a pretty boring game so far, but let's press the top left corner, and then we're going to quit out of the game. And there might be some teachers following along here, so good luck following along. So I'm going to start programming Mario. There's a lot of detail when you go into programming, but here's some very basic ones just to get you started so you can start playing. So let's click on behaviors. So we've clicked on Mario. Mario is selected. In the top right corner, we have behaviors. Behaviors is all about coding your objects, making sure we can start to code the game. So we click on behaviors and look at the top menu. We've got interaction, object, screen, transform, user interface, UI, FX, scene, physics, logic, and then customization. So we're not going to focus on every single one of those today because we would literally be here for days. But and that's the beautiful thing about hyperPad is that you can go into huge amounts of details. You want to use quadratic equations and crazy things like that. You can go into that level of detail, but we're going to go into a very basic level of detail today because this is like an introduction type of course. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do him so he's joystick controlled, and then also a jump button. So I'm just dragging from the interaction menu. I just did joystick controlled, and I did a jump with button. Okay, so if I press play now, you've got a joystick in the bottom left corner, and you've got a jump button in the bottom right corner. If I press the jump button, you can see Mario jumps. Okay, if I use the joystick, you can see that Mario starts to move. Okay, And if I fall off the screen, nothing will happen. He'll just fall off and nothing happens because we haven't programmed the game to do anything. You can see how easy it is to start this. The students are very engaged by now, I promise you. They're like, oh, awesome. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I? And you've got to be prepared for that. They're going to be throwing millions of questions at you. So it's really good to create a game and try and get your experience up before they start coding. And then eventually they'll end up teaching you because the students are brilliant, a lot of them. So we quit. Okay. So I say, okay, well, this is a pretty boring game so far. What's your next objective? Okay, well, they might have something along the lines of, we want a sound. So when Mario jumps, we want to have a sound happening with Mario. So what do I click on again, cursor, if I want to start adding things into my project? What do I click on? Bottom right corner, the filing picture, okay? And this time, instead of importing an image, I'm going to click on create effects. So the very bottom left corner there, it says create effects. I absolutely love this about hyperPad. So you can tell your team, I think they're geniuses for implementing this, Clarissa. You've got sounds and particles. Okay, particles are for like fire and snow and water and special effects. In coding, we call it particles. Above it, you've got sounds. Now you can import soundtracks from Garageband, and I am going to show you how to do that, because I created a little Mario, jingle last night on Garageband. It was extremely difficult to do on an iPad, but gave it a shot. But right now I'm going to click on sounds, and then look at, and hopefully you can hear this, but if I click on these top ones, laser, explosions, power up, hit, jump, these are built in, but I can go in and I can randomize them. I can change. This is so much fun. I mean, there's a whole lesson just in sound engineering that you could do with hyperPad. You can see you've got frequencies that you can talk about, repetition, modulations, and all kinds of things that you can implement to create your own sound instead of just downloading sounds that other people have created, which is a breach of copyright, unless using GarageBand, they're copyright free. But yeah, so I want a jump sound. I can just simply click on jump and keep pressing jump. Can you hear that okay? You can hear the sound effects? Yeah, great. Until I choose a sound that I like. So that might be cool. I like that jump sound. And then I just press save. So in the right-hand side, you can see there's a save button. I just press save, and I'm going to call that jump. Okay, I press OK. So I've just created a sound just like that called jump. And if I press back now, top left corner, and I now have a sound folder that it's created automatically. It's called sounds. And in there should be jump. Every time I add a new sound, it will put it into that sound folder. If I add a special effects one, the particles, it will add a particles folder too. It's very easy. So now that I have this beautiful jump sound, I want to attach that to Mario's jump. So I go back to my game and I click on Mario. And then he's already selected, but what do I click on to change the coding again? The behaviors button. Okay, click on behaviors. And now I've got my joystick control and my jump. We added that before. So I'm going to click on the jump button. And in the right-hand column there, you can see it says no sound is currently selected, no sound selected. But we have created a beautiful sound. So I'm going to click on that and it opens up my sound folder ready to go. So you might have 10 effects there. You might have 100. But I'm going to just click on jump. And now our if-then statement for this would be, if I press jump button, then Mario, moves up and down, or you can talk about the gravity. But also, if press jump button, play sound, jump sound, specifically jump sound. So now when I press play, okay, every time I press the jump button, you can hear that okay, Clarissa? Yeah. So I've got a jump sound attached to them. Now students love this because it's their own sound, it's their own character, hopefully their own characters eventually that they've created, and they're starting to own the game. They're starting to own the objectives and the coding, and they are very engaged right now. I promise you that. Okay, so now that we have that, that's great. Okay, but again, if I press play, it's nice that we can move Mario around with the joystick. It's nice that we can press the jump button, but if I fall off, currently nothing's happening. Okay, so if you were to speak about this in your own, I don't know, Clarissa, what would you say in just your own? Please speak in English, so when a lot of us don't speak Portuguese, unfortunately. If I was playing this game and I had a game objective, if Mario fell off the cliff, right? If he fell off the cliff, what would you say would happen? Like, just if you were a student, in your own words, what would you say you would want to happen if Mario fell off the cliff?
He dies, but come back again. Or
Yeah, so maybe you want him to restart the level, or you'd lose a life or something like that.
yeah, he's alive.
But that's it, right? This is not rocket science.
Yeah.
I want Mario to start again, or level to start again, something like that. Okay, write that down. Okay, so we write it down in English or whatever your language is. And then how would that look like in coding? If Mario touches bottom of screen, then restart level. That's your pseudocode. That's not rocket science, is it? How do we embed that into the game? Well, once we've done that, we can see that's very clear. We can then start to use hyperPad to code that solution. So I'm going to quit out of the game. Okay. And this time I want to create, something where Mario hits the bottom of the screen. So I click on Mario, I go back to behaviors. And this time, instead of at the top, you got interaction, object, and then the third one is screen. Okay. So in this particular case, I'm going to grab the hit screen, and I'm just going to push that into our window. It doesn't matter where it is. You can make it look pretty if you want to. It doesn't matter too much. It's a big canvas. I click on hit screen edge. There's how many screen edges are there in a square, a rectangle? Obviously there's 4. So you top, left, right, and bottom. I only want to talk about the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to turn the other 3 off. You can see I just switched them off. So now basically the if statement would be, if Mario touches bottom of the screen or detects bottom of the screen, then what do we want to happen? Well, Clarissa has just told me she wants to reset the level. So we're going to go over to scene, and where it is, there it is, third from the bottom. So have a look at the top. We've got interaction, object, screen. You keep going, you'll get to scene. Okay, and then third from the bottom, have a look at the bottom left. If I scroll all the way down, it's got set timescale unload, and then that third one from the bottom, it says restart scene. So I'm going to drag that on to the screen. Now I have 2 rules here. I've got one that says hit screen edge, and then I've got, let me just make that hit screen edge, and then underneath it, I've got restart scene. How do you think the students would connect those 2 rules together so they work together? Well, they can draw a line, and it doesn't matter where that line goes, as long as it touches another rule, it'll connect. Okay. So now if we talk about our if then else statement again, and I keep doing this, I know I sound very repetitive, but it's a super important concept to be discussing when you're talking about game design. If Mario touches bottom of screen, then restart scene. Simple as that. So if we press play now, okay, and Mario falls off the screen, okay, it restarts the screen. Okay. Now, another thing, they're like, well, why isn't the screen following Mario? Because if Mario goes off the screen, he just disappears, right? Like, have a look. I go over to the left here, he's gone. End of game. All right. So you go left corner, quit. I need to add another rule to this. So you might need a rule where the screen follows Mario. Okay. Interaction, object, screen. Yeah. We go back to screen, top left corner. And this time, instead of doing hit screen edge, which is the one we did before, we're going to go to movement. And there's, again, third from the bottom, it says screen follow. Hopefully you can see that clearly. I'm going to drag that onto my Mario coding page. And then if I click on the screen following rule, have a look, follows X and follows Y. By default, it follows both axes, doesn't it? This is a problem. Let's press play. So now the screen is following Mario on both axes. Have a look. So if I fall off the screen, I fall forever. There is no, and it invalidates my hit screen edge rule because I can't touch the bottom of the screen because it's following the X and the Y axes. In platform games, generally speaking, especially like with games like this with Mario Brothers, it follows mainly one axis, doesn't it? Which one is it following? And which one do you need to turn off? So I say, I say to my students, X is across, so we want to follow along this axis, but we might not want to follow, not always, but in this game, we might not want to follow the y-axis. So we simply click on screen follow, which we've already got selected, and we turn off the y-axis. It's as simple as that. And it sounds simple once you've seen it, but it's very complicated for a child who's programming, going, how come it's not touching the bottom? I press play. And now we can see that it follows left and right, but not up and down. This is good because now I can still fall off the screen and boom, resets. Okay. Very important stuff. It's very rudimentary, very basic. And this is very important, but for a child who doesn't understand these basic concepts, they can't code. And once they understand them, it's like an exponential level of learning. They just get really, really good at it very, very, very quickly. But you've got to show them these fundamentals. Okay, so I'm going to quit out of here. So now I've got Mario and I've got beautiful ground platform. Let's add in a background. Okay, and then we'll add in our bad guys. And we'll have plenty of time to do this. We've got 20 minutes left. So in the top left corner, we've got this wallpaper icon. So it's right in the top left corner. You got the little 3 dashes. That's the menu. But next to that, you've got looks like a gallery image, doesn't it? That square with the mountain. Click on that. Screen view background. We're going to click on background, and then we just tap on it, and we can import. And remember we put all those images in before. So we're going to click on tap, and it accesses our bottom menu, and you can see we've got all our graphics that we imported. Now, if you've forgotten to import your background, you just go right now, you go import, and you just import from your gallery, or you can go to Safari right now. You can exit hyperPad. You can save a beautiful picture. Hopefully it's copyright free, or maybe it's one of your own pictures, and then you can import that as your background. I'm going to choose this one that I say, and it's kind of squashed in the middle of the screen. I'm going to do aspect fill, or actually stretch, so it just fills out my screen. This doesn't move, this picture. This is just a background. You don't have to have a background. Sometimes you might want to use stars. It might be rainforest. They might be doing a game around Antarctica. You might want to have polar bears or something nice in the background, whatever it is. Okay. So I'm happy with that. And have a look at my game now. It looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Like the background doesn't move, but you can still see that the platform moves, and it's looking really good. Sounds kind of cool. We got a jump button. Is that cool? All right. So now I'm going to add in, do you want to add in a bullet, or do you want to add in Bowser? Clarissa?
A Bowser. The Bowser.
Bowser? Okay. So we're going to go to the import button, and we're going to grab Bowser, and we're going to drag Bowser into the screen. Now, Bowser's really massive by default. That's okay. We can click on Bowser, and we can make him smaller. Okay. And might make him even a bit smaller. And if I just press play now, Bowser is just a brick, just like it doesn't actually do anything. So we need to program Bowser to do something. So you might want Bowser. You remember in Mario, I don't know, did you ever play Super Mario Brothers? Bowser would like move around and he would throw axes. We're not going to do the axes today, but we might want him to just move around a little bit. So we can, instead of clicking on Mario and pressing behaviors, because that's the coding for Mario, we now want to program Bowser. So we click on Bowser, and then we click on behaviors again, top right corner. And then we go to objects. So it's second from the left. So you got interaction and then objects. And then we can do what we call a patrol rule. So it's at the very bottom. Okay. And then we click on patrol and drag that in. Now, by default, if I click on patrol, you've got have a look in your right-hand column, you've got movement, and you've got the x-axis and you've got the y-axis. And so by default, just whenever you add a patrol rule, it goes -6 on the x-axis. So if x-axis is across, I say this to my students, if x-axis is across and you got -6, which way is Bowser going to start going? Well, he's going to go to the left, okay? Because it's a negative on the axis, okay? And again, if you're only just joining, there's our x and y axes that we talk about, plus negatives, plus and negative numbers, okay? So if we know that, we go back to hyperPad, we can change this. Do you want Bowser to go left and right or up and down? It's up to you. We can just leave it as left and right. That's fine. Press play. And now you can see that Bowser's just going to patrol left and right ongoing. Okay, we've got our jump button. If I touch Bowser, nothing happens. He just pushes me off the cliff there. Okay, so you might want to start programming something to happen there. So this is when the objectives come in. If Mario touches Bowser, loses health bar, or you might want to have like fire burst out, something fun like that. Okay, so let's quit, and this time, instead of importing a sound, we're going to create some fire, some kind of cool particle effect. Okay, So bottom right corner, import button. What do I click on again to create sound or special effects? Particles. Click on the create effects icon in the bottom left corner. This time, instead of creating sound, I'm going to create a particle. I'm going to click on particles. And look at all this. I've got fire, comet, fountain, explosion, smoke, snow, shock waves. I've got all these really cool stuff. Maybe a shock wave would be cool. Let's do it instead of fire. Let's do a shock wave. And I can go into these settings and I can change it. I can make it bigger, smaller. I can change the number of particles, the duration that goes for. I can change all of these things. I can really customize it and make it look good. So I'm just going to save this. Shockwave is fine. And cool. Now we go back to our main menu and have a look. I've got sound folder. Next to that, I've got particles. If I click on particles, I've got shockwave. Okay. So how do I make a rule so that if Bowser touches Mario, then a shockwave shoots out? If you did this in English, Clarissa, what would you say? If, something around Bowser and Mario colliding, what would you say in English?
It destroys. Destroy.
Yeah. Well, you might say, if Bowser touches Mario, then shockwave. And then you might have a destroy things on there. So it can destroy Mario or destroy Bowser. It depends what your game objectives are, doesn't it? Right now, I'm going to go click on Bowser, click on behaviors, and then under object again, I now want to do a collide rule, a collision rule. So if you have a look where it says collision, just there in the middle there, you've got this collision rule. So I'm going to drag that onto the screen. So right now it says if Bowser collides with, and it's just got any object, it's blank. So I need to click on it. And I need to select an object that Bowser collides with. So I'm going to select that object and then click on Mario, because there might be lots of other things that, and you might want to have lots of collision rules for all the different things in your game. But right now, I just want to connect Bowser to Mario. So I've clicked on Mario. I press the green tick in the bottom. Yes, select, happy. So now I've got this rule that says, and so far all it says is if Bowser touches Mario, then, and it's empty, I'm not connecting to anything. So what do I want to happen? Well, I want the shockwave to appear from Bowser. So I'm going to click on effects now. So you've got interaction object screen, keep going, you'll get to effects. And under effects, you've got start particle right at the bottom left corner there, start particle. So I'm going to just drag that over onto my screen, click on start particle. It says no particle is selected. Have a look at the top right corner. No particle is currently selected. So I just click on that. And which folder am I going into here, Clarissa? The one that says particles.
Particles.
Okay. Yep. So go in there and it says shockwave and I click on that. And now I need to join those two rules together. Do you remember what we did before? How did we join them together? I just literally click on the bottom of that first rule and it doesn't matter where I go, as long as I touch the other rule, it'll connect the two together. Okay. So now when I press play, okay, and I hit Bowser, you can see that a shockwave came out of him. Kaboom. You can see that for a second before he pushes me back off the cliff. Okay. So I've got all my objectives written out. I've clearly defined what I'm trying to do in terms of pseudocode and English and whatever it is. And then I'm able to apply it to the game in some kind of way that makes sense. I'm going to make Bowser a little bit shorter, and I might even change him. So instead of patrolling left and right, it goes up and down. How would you change this? At the moment, we've got -6 on the x-axis. How would you make it go up and down instead of left and right? What would you change?
Put it that -6 on the y, and then
you got it. So I'm going to clear that one, make that 0, and then I might do I might even do +6. So because if you do negative on the y, we'll go through the floor and then come back up.
Down. Yeah,
which might be good, might be what you're going for, but in this particular case, I'm going to go positive up the y-axis. So I've done 6. You can see that's different now. Press play, and then straight away you can see Bowser's going up and down, and that means that I can, when I'm experimenting, I can see that shockwave a little bit clearer. There we go. And every time I touch it, boom. Now there's a lot more rules you can implement here, but because of time, we don't have a huge amount of time. I want to show you how to add sound from Garageband in here, because this is really, really cool, right? So I'm going to just quit out of here for a second. Okay.
I'm
And
actually
I'm
so
going to go.
curious. I'm
Sorry.
excited. I'm excited for you
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
I made a
Yeah,
little
cool.
sound for my game, and then I was like, "How do you do that?" So okay, show us.
Yeah. Now it's actually really easy. The hardest bit's actually composing in GarageBand. So
Uh-huh.
you got to learn how to use GarageBand first. But the GarageBand is really cool because it's got all these loops and stuff. And I teach GarageBand sessions, but we're not going to go into how to make a GarageBand project because we'd spend 2 hours just on that, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do now is just quickly open GarageBand. And last night I just programmed a funny, like I'll play it for you. Okay. It's very basic. I even had my voice there saying, "It's me, Mario." Listen. It's me, Mario. Okay. Yeah.
I love
Kind of
it.
fun, right? I'm playing that right off as well. So it's like, it's me, Mario. Okay. All right. So it doesn't go for very long. It's only about 7 bars worth. Now, if I wanted to get this into hyperPad, okay, so this will only work if you've got GarageBand and hyperPad installed on the iPad. You won't see the hyperPad option unless it's installed on the iPad. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my main projects. This one's called My Song 9. I should have probably called it Mario, but that's okay. I'm just going to select it and I'm going to press share. It's in the bottom of the screen, just slightly to the left. It says share. And I press share. And I'm sharing this not as a ringtone, not as a project. If I was sharing it as a project, I could have a colleague or a friend or another student edit my GarageBand project. I just want to share it as a song. So I'm clicking the song. Don't worry too much about the quality right now. Just keep it on medium. That's fine. Press share. Okay. Then you have to open it into hyperPad. Okay. So this is very important. You might not see hyperPad at the top here. Okay. So I'm just going to click open in. It's kind of like third from the top there. Open in. And then it exports the song. And then it shows me all the lists of things on the iPad that are compatible with exporting from GarageBand. So you might have one, you might have 100, depends what apps you have installed on the iPad. In this particular case, I'm going to go scroll across and I'm going to go to more. And then you can see all of these things are compatible with having sound, right? That's a lot. But all we care about today is hyperPad. So you can see in the middle of the screen there, I got hyperPad, right? So I'm just going to click on hyperPad and it says import complete. That's done. If I go to my import button in the bottom right corner of the screen, I can see that my song, it has just appeared there. So you can see my song, okay? How do I get that into the game? Just like a graphics, okay? So I literally just click on that and drag it in, okay? Now, by default, if I click on that, you can see it starts playing. Just click away for it to stop playing. It's a bit annoying. And by the way, I only let students add this at the very end because the sound's always playing all the time and it gets in the way. So I only add this at the end of the game, not at the start, because it's a bit annoying. But when I click on it, you'll see it says an option to start play or loop. So have a look. Start on play or loop. You can have it just looping forever. And if you turn off start on play, then nothing will happen until you program it. So you might actually have it. So you might have a rule that says like, if Bowser collides with Mario, then plays this particular song, the Castles theme or something like that, you know? And so it'll only start playing when something happens, like a collision rule. And so these are all things to think about in your game objectives. But right now, I'm just going to, do it, start on play. And so now when I press play, still can hear our jump button. It's me, Mario. Okay, fall off the screen, restart the game. Okay, so now you can go to town on this, right? You can have health bars. The health bars is a whole nother chapter that would take about half an hour minimum to go over. We're not going to do that today, but you can import health bars. Then you can have the collision rules set to the health bar. So it might be if Mario touches Bowser, then health bar goes down by 20%. If reaches 0, reset level, lose life, whatever you want. You can have coins in there, so you can import coins. You can put other, well, look how big Bill, Bonsai Bill is. I might want to make that smaller. And you might want Bonsai Bill moving left and right. You know how the bullet flies along the screen. So you can go behaviors, go to object, go down to patrol. Okay. And then, you might want to make that -20. So it's nice and big. Press play. Excuse me. The point is, how quick have we created this game? We've done it in less than an hour. I spent the first 20 minutes just talking about game objectives and outlines, and we've got something that looks really, really good, really, really quickly. Now, I did want to show you this. If you've created a graphic yourself in something like Keynote, okay, so let's just quickly go back to Keynote. Say this was a character that you've created. This is obviously not, this is an XY illustration, but let's just say this was a beautiful character. You've just created this, you've got a shape. It might be just a triangle with a face on it, just to start with, just to get them learning how to make characters. And you want to get this into your game. How do we do that? So very easy. You just tap on the project. So I'm just pinch the screen because I'm in presentation view. Can you see all that? You can see all that menu now. Top right corner, you've got the 3 little dots. Click on that. And then we go to export. Okay, second from the top. So we're just exporting. This is the same with not just for anything. You might be exporting from Keynote as a PDF. Again, we could do a whole workshop just on Keynote, but this is all you need to know. So they've created a shape, they've created a character, something. When they export, they're going to export as an image. Okay, second from the bottom. And then you've got a few options here. The bottom one's really important. Transparent backgrounds. If you don't turn that on, so it's green, see how mine is green, transparent backgrounds, it's green. If you don't turn that on, you're going to have a big box behind your character. And so there's going to be like a character like, Mario with a big white box or a big green box or something around him. That annoys students, annoys me too. So you want to export as a transparent background, and you absolutely want to have PNG selected, that third, see the formats? It's got PNG and there's a tick there. PNG allows for transparent backgrounds. When you're saving images from Safari, they also need to be transparent backgrounds. Okay, so if we go to Safari, for example, and just go to Google here, and we're just saving an image. Okay, just waiting for my internet to catch up. So we might go grass. Oh, let's just do Mario graphic or something like that. Okay, and we might even type PNG in there. PNG. So when we click on images, if we click on a character like Mario, if the background change when it loads, see how it goes. Can you see it's got the gray and the white tiles there, that checkered pattern? That means the background is transparent. If it's not checkered, it means it's not transparent. When you save it into the game, it's going to have a white box. So you need to make sure that it's got that transparent background for those characters to import properly. Okay. So then I just click and hold and save to the camera roll, and then it will import with the transparent. And it's the same thing with Keynote. You can export the PNG with a transparent background, and that will just allow for that. Okay. So that's really, really important. It's actually really important. And finally, the last thing I'm going to show you is when you import a character, you might have it. So see how Bowser is touching, he's kind of, if I make Bowser nice and big and I press play, let me just turn off the patrol rule. Okay, so I'm just going to delete that patrol rule, and I'm going to make Bowser physics. So, okay, watch him fall. See how he's floating? See how he's floating there? That's annoying. And it's because it's got a transparent box around him. So if you want to change the boundary of your character that you've imported, just above, remember we had that copy button. So you got the trash icon, then the middle one is the duplicate button. And then above that, you got 2 arrows pointing inwards. That is your boundary, collision boundaries. So I click on that. I can change this. Maybe you want to make it to his higher foot, right? And you can even change this, and you can change it so Mario's standing on his head a bit more. So you can, I'm actually shrinking the collision boundaries. So when I press play, and so I'm going to press tick, save that. Now when I press play, watch him. He's in the ground. Hey, it's me, Mario. I probably should disable that. Delete that for now. So you can see that, and that's really important, because otherwise you've got things bashing into each other, and it looks like there is an invisible space between them, but because they've got this transparent boundary around them. So that's really important too. So that is basic platform 2D game design with objectives, pseudocode, and flowchart introduction to students. They can import from Garageband. They can create their own sounds. They can create their own special effects. They should be able to create their own storylines. If we had more time, I'd show you how you can have, text bubbles popping out of browser. So when they touch, you can add to the collision rule, text pops out. So browser says, "Hey, Mario, what are you doing? You want a sandwich?" Whatever the storyline is. So all of these create incredible amounts of engagement. They can create games very, very quickly. You can talk about pseudocode and coding principles, and then they can take that and they can do Unity and Swift concepts later on. But as an introduction to coding, and in terms of the level of engagement and the way they interact with their game and customize their own game, hyperPad is, in my opinion, the best app out there for that. And I love using it, and I teach it all the time. I'm teaching it again on Wednesday for the whole day with Year 5s, and we're going to have a great time. Every time I do it, we have a great time. So I really recommend mucking around. Go through this video again. Watch the recording. I've made sure that I've been very clear about the different steps. You might need to skip, fast forward and rewind and go through all the different steps, but all the steps to get a very basic 2D platform game happening are there. And so you just need to start mucking around with it. And please make a game before you run the session with the students, because you'll run into problems and then be able to solve that with your students before you get in the classroom and look like you're embarrassed. And then get the students to teach you, because they'll learn this very, very quickly. It always happens. And I always get little Jimmy, sir, look what I've done. And I'm like, how did you do that? Why did you do that? Teach me. I'd love to learn. And so we learn from each other. It's not just about me teaching. It's about learning together. And that's what makes this a great activity, a great app. So again, Clarissa, thank you for having me. Did you have any final questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, guys, if you guys are here watching, have any questions, please let us know. But meantime, I just want to really thank you, Steve, for taking your precious time and to run this workshop. I really appreciate from the hyperPad team. And guys, thank you for watching. And again, this is for you teachers out there, educators, parents, students, just to see that you can push yourself out there and then learn something new and teach like people how to make games. I never thought that I would be able to run a workshop teaching people how to kind of design a game either. So it's pretty cool. Like, you don't need to have a heavy software background, but hyperPad really makes things like easier for us. And I really appreciate, Steve, your time. Thank you, Stephen.
No, you're welcome. And actually, one of the questions, how do I share the project? This is really important, actually. In the top left corner, if I just quit out of here, so I'm just clicking on the top left corner and pressing save and quit, and it takes me back to my main menu. Okay. Now, if you're logged in to hyperPad, so if you've signed into hyperPad, and again, once you've paid for hyperPad, you just sign up with an email. Some schools, they have shared accounts because, like as in a teacher account, because the students might be too young. And so they have to do it through the parent or the teacher permission. Most schools I deal with, they have their own individual accounts. So they've got their school email attached to their hyperPad account. And so I've got 3 projects in front of me at the moment. The one that we created today was called Test Game. That's the first one there. It is automatically saved to my hyperPad cloud account. So I can actually log into another iPad, log in, and I should be able to access that file. However, I can click on the 3 dots there, and I can share that file via airdrop. So right in the middle there, you've got the airdrop button, and I can airdrop that to another student as well. So I can press share, and then I click on airdrop, and I can find another iPad in my classroom, and I can share that project, which enables them to work a little bit more collaboratively. So, hey, can I do scene number 2? Because you can create chapters and scenes. And can I add my own character? And you can share backwards and forwards. And so you can do it like that. You can also click on the mail button. So when I click on the share button, I can actually just export it as an email. And so I can share my file. And they're usually reasonably small files, so you can often back it up via email. Sometimes I back up my projects via email, just so I've got an extra safety in case I lose a project. So there's lots of ways that you can share that way. And obviously you can delete the project as well. So just be careful if students sharing iPads. Make sure that they've logged out of their account in case another student comes in and deletes their project. make sure that they've backed it up by email before. So from a shared environment, and a lot of classrooms are not one-to-one these days. Some of them are shared. So that's very important to talk about as well. But that's probably it. I think that's enough for today. But again, thank you. Good luck. Good luck coding. Have fun with it. And I will catch you next time. Thanks for having me, Clarissa. Goodbye.